What up, everybody? Welcome to Drop and Give Me 20 with Phil Risden. I am Phil Risden. Shout out to all my Rizdons out there. If you want to become a Rizdon, please like, share, and subscribe this video. And make sure to watch all the other videos, man. Share, subscribe, get the name out there. We got a lot to talk about in today's episode. Let's start the show. Welcome, everybody. Like I said, welcome to Drop and Give Me 20 with Phil Risden. I am Phil Risden. Blah, blah, blah. Intros, like, share, subscribe. If you're on podcasting shit, give me 5 stars and give me a nice little review. I want to know what you guys care about, the things you want to hear. I care about you, so please care about me. Or don't. You're free to do whatever you want to. Oh man, guys, there's a lot happening these days, man. A lot of things are going on. First and foremost, I just want to apologize for my comments about the insurrection, because even though they have been completely right and very, very on point, and I have a lot of friends DMing me, telling me that my jokes about it were hilarious, there are also some other people who were not so amused. Wouldn't you have guessed it? There are a couple people there who did not think that it was that great. Yeah, I had some motherfuckers just rolling up in my DMs. I only had one comment, actually, which is surprising. That was fine. But yeah, some people were hitting me up saying all sorts of weird shit. So if any of you guys are watching this or listening to this, I would like to say, fuck you. I don't need you on this podcast. The only reason I do this podcast is because it allows me to do whatever the fuck I want, whenever the fuck I want to do it. Okay, so I don't actually need you. All right, I'm trying. I don't care. I have self-worth now. All right. You see this? I brushed my hair today. I've been paying attention to how I look on the screen. I've been looking bummy as fuck. I got a nice little fucking shape up. I brushed my hair. I care about things. I'm still not getting a haircut, but the shape up counts. The shape up counts. Okay, so that's all I have to say about the angry whites that have been contacting me. Go fuck yourself. And listen, if you want to stop people from making jokes about the insurrection, next time you do an insurrection, fucking finish the job, all right? If not, it's just bullshit talk, and you can go fuck yourself. Oh boy. Aside from all that, I notice on this podcast I often do talk about race relations, and I do shit on a lot of people, particularly white people, from time to time. But this is a time where I want to put that aside, and I want to be real. I want to be honest here. I want to be earnest here, and just say, R.I.P. to the homie Bob Saget. Okay, from one comedian to another, R.I.P. to the homie Bob Saget. Another one of America's dads. Gone, just like Cosby. Another one of America's dads ripped from our hands. Except this time he wasn't taken down by a jury of his peers. He was taken down by God, and it's a rough one. I'll be honest with you. I was making jokes before about Bob Saget and shit. Yeah, sure, I was fucking around, but for real, like this is kind of a big loss in comedy. He's one of those people that I feel like everyone knows, but not many people know his stand up, and I feel like his stand up has always been so great, honestly, and kind of such a breath of fresh air, especially with a comedian who's a sitcom comedian. I feel like a lot of people don't know, too. I'm going to sound old as fuck here, but a lot of, like, young kids don't know. You will never see somebody, like, on his level of fame ever again. Like, that'll never happen. Like, that's what's so interesting about this new wave, of people that are kind of, like, dropping off. You got Betty White, you have Bob Saget and stuff like that. And I'm sure there's going to be a third one, or there's somebody that I've forgotten about or that I didn't even notice. But, it's kind of ending the era of these people that had true fame in the purest, in the purest definition of the word. I think now, we're also desensitized by fame because all of us are kind of partial celebrities within our own world. Even if you have 100 subscribers, there are people paying attention to you, and it's different. So now you think you're at that same level, but it's just, and also too, fame can just be, it's such an easy commodity to kind of get now. Not necessarily easy, because I'm performing here, you know, and who knows how many people listen to it, who knows how many people will watch it, but it's just like fame kind of pops up now, and it's a lot easier to come by than it was, it was before. Like I feel like nowadays, like anyone can literally become famous. It's like if you slip and fall in a funny way and somebody catches it on video, the next day you're gonna have a record deal. Okay, but back in the day, dude, it was not like that at all, man. It was a totally different ball game. Like, dude, back in the day, you either had, if you wanted to be famous, you either had to suck dick, manipulate your way through everything, thinking what other people are thinking and try to anticipate them, blackmail people, fuck with people, or you had to be so undeniably talented that they couldn't keep you from being at the top. And believe it or not, the third one is by far the hardest one and the most few and far between. And those are the three things. You either had to suck dick, manipulate people, or be undeniably talented. And that was just if you were white. In particular, that's more just if you're like a white dude. You know what I mean? But if you want to talk about minorities, I mean, you could be the most undeniably talented nigga in the world, and they don't give a fuck about you. In fact, they would try to destroy your career if you talked too much and said the wrong thing or did this and did that. It was so easy. Like, we talk about canceling now, and it is worse in this sense because it's so much more in the public eye. But celebrities and famous people have been getting canceled since the dawn of time. It's just been behind closed doors by their own industry. Things are just so incredibly splintered now, and the consumer has almost complete control of what's going on, to a point that it's kind of become ridiculous. But that's just the way the world is going. So it's just so interesting to see somebody like Bob Saget, and like I said, having it be so hard and so, being so hard to get to that next level. And he was one of, I said one of the three, sucking dick, manipulating, or be undeniably talented. And he was the third. He was undeniably talented. And not just that, but he was somebody who was undeniably talented, but also didn't waver. Once he got the bag, he didn't waver. And I feel like as a comedian and just as an artist as a whole, that is such a phenomenal and admirable thing. What's happening to me? I don't know how to speak right now. But it really is. It's something that I think we should all look in ourselves and kind of strive to do. You got to think about, what he was in the 80s, man. Like he was one of America's dads in the 80s to early 90s, man. And back then, it was if you did something wrong and it got run through the newspapers or something like that, they'd run you through the mud and you could never work again. And yes, that does happen now, but it's kind of different. It's like the world didn't get to comment on it. Only these certain journalists got to comment on it, and they would just paint the picture themselves, and things would go the way they went. And I think that's such an interesting thing, especially because a lot of people may not know, but Bob Saget's act is very, very dirty. It's very, very dirty. So for him to be America's dad and still decide to do his act the way he wants to do his act, okay, and not adhere to the fans of Full House, because he could have easily decided to do that. He could have easily just been like, you know what, what if people who like Full House come to my show and then they see me talking about dicks and pussies and fucking, and they decide they don't like this anymore. I'm gonna be out of a bag. I have a whole new demographic of people coming in, and I can't push them away. But he decided to sit there and do what he had to do, and hold his head high for his content and for his artistry and his jokes. And at the end of the day, it worked out, and I think that's just like such a beautiful thing. And I think he's such an amazing person. And it sucks because it's like you only notice somebody, you only notice the full spectrum of somebody oftentimes when they're gone. And for him, it was like that with me for him. I did like his comedy. I had listened to his comedy before, and stuff like that. And I definitely thought he was really cool, but I didn't have this epiphany. Like, listen to how spirited I'm talking to you in this session right now while we're speaking. I was not like that about him until I really sat down and thought about it. And by then he was gone. There's a lot of people in comedy that I've always wanted to meet, and I would say, that have passed. That sucks. There's a lot of people that, have died that I've always wanted to meet and see. And, Gary Shandling was one. Bob Saget was another, and I'm sure that list is going to get longer and longer as I get older. But, it's one of those things where it's just like, just appreciate the people, appreciate the people in your life while you have them. That's really it. I think, I didn't know him personally or anything like that, but to just watch his life, watch his trajectory, I thought it was amazing. And, he's one of the last of a dying era. For real, man. Like, like I would say, like Martin Lawrence, Jerry Seinfeld, Bob Saget, and then like the tail end of it, George Lopez, were like comedic forces beyond what the world's comprehension is now. Like the world's attention is so splintered in so many different places. It's like Jerry Seinfeld and like Bob Saget. It's like Bob Saget was back then, what Logan Paul or Jake Paul is today, except it's not just young people that knew him. Grandmothers knew him, fathers knew him, uncles knew him, children knew him, teenagers knew him. Everybody knew him because there weren't as many screens. There was only one screen to look at. Fucking 10, maybe 30 channels. You know what I mean? You're talking before even digital cable or satellite. So big ups to the homie, man. Big ups to the homie, and I can only hope that in my career I will have as much of an impact on comedy and on people's happiness as Mr. Robert Saget has had. And hopefully 20 years from now, there will be some very spirited young kid doing a, unattended podcast about my effect on the world. So fingers crossed, fingers crossed, dude. Yeah, man, that's a very tough loss. That's a very tough loss. But that's the best thing about comedy is that he recorded so much of himself that you can get plenty of Bob Saget even while he's gone. Same thing with Norm Macdonald and stuff too. So sad day, but good things do happen. Yeah, there's yeah, it's a rough one. But let's move on. There's a couple more things I wanted to talk about. I'm a little late on this, but this is partially why I wanted to put out a Friday podcast as well, and I'm gonna start doing twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this Fresh and Fit podcast. Fresh and Fit podcast. Some of you guys may have heard of them or may have not. It's a podcast, I believe, based in Miami. That's kind of more about like alpha male stuff and like dating. It's a lot of guy shit, and they have like a lot of very, very attractive women, usually strippers, OnlyFans women, stuff like that on the show, particularly black women and like women of other of various ethnicities. And about a week ago, they joked on their podcast. They made some jokes on their podcast about not being into black women at all, and they were kind of shaming them, especially for like dark skin and this, that, and the third. And it's just corny as fuck. It's just corny as fuck. Like I barely know these guys. I've seen them through clips. I don't even really know their names. I'll be honest with you. But just watching that clip of what they were saying and seeing their other clips and stuff too, I just want to say that shit is so fucking lame. Coming from this is coming from a black dude who has dated a lot of white women. You know what I mean? It's fine. I don't really care. But the thing is, I think number one, I think when it comes to race relations of like dating and stuff like that, especially with like black men and black women, because I noticed there's a lot more interracial dating now than there was years before, which is it's cool. It's whatever. But I think there's a lot of stigma, especially on black men. Don't worry, I will be roasting these guys in a second. But there is a stigma against black men who don't date as many black women and stuff like that. And I will say, I kind of understand, where they're coming from if they weren't so childish about how they spoke about it, because I'll say this: like most of the black women that I would date or have tried to date are black women that only date white dudes. And I think there's probably, if there was a black woman having a podcast about the same subject, she'd probably be saying the opposite thing to me. You know what I mean? Being like, there's tons of black dudes I would date, but they only date white girls. You know what I mean? So this is it's kind of a disconnect, and I don't really know where it comes from. I think there is some of probably like race issues behind it, systemic issues. The separation of the black family. The high education of black women while putting black men in the school to prison pipeline. Stuff like that. So it separated us as people. You know what I mean? And then you have this next generation of younger black kids who, when they think discipline, when they think yelling, when they think any sort of unpleasant remark, they're not thinking about their parents, they're not thinking about their home, they're not thinking about their mother and father, they're thinking about just their mother. And I think that can actually have some effects as well. That being said, I think it's corny as fuck for those dudes to go around and say that, especially when you're making so much money off the back of these black women. You know, I've watched countless other clips, and they have most of the women that they have on there, and they ask dating advice for or about or discuss things with, are black women. So for you to do that, you know what I mean, is completely fucking shameful. Also, there's a difference between having a type, meaning like, like, maybe it's the type of woman you grew up with, maybe it's white women, Asian women, whatever. It's the type of people you grew up with. There's a difference between having a type and being into a type necessarily, and then shunning a whole entire race. And I think that's the big disconnect that they're kind of missing right now. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, they're basically shock jocks. That's what podcasting is. That's what content is a lot of people talking hyperbole to get reactions. So maybe they don't feel this way if you were to just talk to them strictly, just like face to face as two people. But that only goes so far, though. You know what I mean? Like, I can't really give them the benefit of the doubt because they're the ones putting this out and making jokes about it on a constant basis in that episode. I'm sure, but I'm sure there are other episodes where they're doing this too. And also too, it's just like, black women have it hard enough. Why are you doing this and kind of throwing dirt on their name on top of it? And there's nothing more shameful than seeing a person of a different race or ethnicity shit on their own race or ethnicity. That's the most sad fucking, like, these white people have won type thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's why the whole fucking insurrection shit is almost like so sad, because it's like there's all these white people thinking that they've like lost the country, and oh man, what are we gonna do? And this is the way our world works. It's like, nigga, you own the world. Do you realize that there are certain black people, there are certain Indian people, there are certain Asian people that don't think their spouse has worth unless they look like you? Do you actually get that? Do you actually feel the weight of that? And how you have essentially molded the world in your image. And this is what this shit is, man. So when you talk about losing your privilege or how things aren't right for white people, you can go fuck yourself, And Fresh and Fit can go fuck themselves too, man. That shit is so fucking lame. Especially too, I really want to harp on the whole fact of, listen, like, whatever race of person you want to date them. That's fucking fine. I feel like when it comes to the Fresh and Fit, and when it comes to any dude who's listening to this right now who decides to harp strictly on race, listen to me, my dude. Listen to me closely. You need to stop focusing on race and start focusing on mindset. Okay? That is a very important thing that needs to happen, and I'm only learning it as I've gotten older. Okay, people have always said, like, be yourself and talk about personality over beauty, but you don't get it until you've kind of been through the ringer and you've lived life and you've been around with these women who you think are attractive, or they have something about themselves or whatever that just is so intense to you that you have to be into. But with a lot of that comes trouble, man. And you'll notice too is that you probably always knew that they were no good or that they were shitty or that they weren't really there for you. But it wasn't until something went down where they did you dirty or whatever where they really showed their true colors. And that's why you got to focus on mindset. Women of any race can act this way in the same way that men of any race can act this way, which is why you need to focus on who people are on the inside rather than who they are on the outside. I'm not somebody who is, I'm a nice guy, but I'm not Dr. Phil, okay? And listen, I know there's supposed to be more jokes in the show, and there will be, but I care about appearance too, okay? I like a fat ass, I like some big titties. All right, I like a girl with a glim in her eye. Like, I will suck your dick to the bone. Okay, like I like a woman making that eye contact where she's like, I will suck this soul out of your dick. I like that. All right, but that has a time and a place. And also, a woman with a good mindset can also provide that too. And I think a lot of men, we get so clouded by like raw sexual energy that we only go for that feeling and don't go for the secondary part of who they are as a person. And because that's what's leading you, because your dick is leading you, you get lost. I mean, bro, Fresh and Fit podcast, I think, like, niggas, if either of you niggas are listening, you especially need to focus on mindset over race, because you niggas are making money. You niggas are making money right now. And you got to realize that those OnlyFans girls you have on, those stripper girls you have on, those are the type of women that are going to be coming after you all the time. And those types of women don't have that good of a mindset. To be truly honest with you, they do not have that good of a mindset, man. I mean, shit, there's women like that come after me and other comedians and shit, and I get paid in fucking drink tickets. You feel me, bro? So it's like, they're everywhere. This type of mentality is everywhere. There's women, taking fucking condoms out of the garbage and squeezing it into their vaginas to try and get pregnant. That's what happens when you're a successful man. Okay? You got to think about yourself. Like, you guys have a very successful brand and everything. As far as a man goes, you're kind of the cream of the crop. So for you to conduct yourself in such a shallow way is only going to do you wrong. So pay attention to that. And, if there is a woman who digs your condom out of the garbage and tries to squeeze it into your pussy, make sure you put some hot sauce in there like Drake, okay? Because you got to protect yourself, man. That was a fucking debacle, man. That fucking Drake hot sauce debacle, god damn. Talk about a spicy meatball. That is hilarious. The Drake condom fiasco, or the Drake condom Tabasco. That's what I'm gonna call it. The Drake condom Tabasco. You know what though? It's like, it's weird. That's the whole thing that's so funny about it. It's like, yes, it's like, it's weird behavior, but hearing what she tried to do fully explains his weird behavior. That's always one of those strange things where it's just like, what he does. Like, you hear about celebrities where it's like, their shit is like crazy sometimes, where they have security, and then you go to their house, you immediately sign an NDA, and then they take all your phones and this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 blah. And you think like, oh my God, they're nuts. But then you hear about how their lives actually are, and you're like, oh fuck, they're literally just protecting themselves. This is how desperate these people are. Again, with Fresh and Fit podcast, it's like, this is how desperate these women are. And for you to get rid of a whole demographic, a whole race of the female population, take them out of the pool, to get rid of a whole race of good women, a whole race of strong women, a whole race of insightful, kind women that are willing to support you and show you love, you're a fucking fool. Because just like there's fuck boys, there's plenty of fuck ladies out there. All right? And you got to watch out for them. You got to watch out for the thoughts. All right? Keep your eyes open for the thoughts. All right? There's a reason Drake pours fucking Tabasco sauce in his fucking condoms. It's because these women don't know how to act. So next time, fucking support somebody, man. Don't diminish somebody just because of the color of their skin. Also, not for nothing, it's like I know skin's glowing right here, right now, but I turn off these giant fluorescent lights, and I am a dark man. All right. So, and both of y'all are dark. So don't hate on the pussy that bred you. Okay. I, th- I think that's a good place for me to end here. This has been a great time on the Drop and Give Me 20 podcast. Sorry, I know it should have been funnier. I feel like I was talking some really real shit, but it was cool. It was cool. This is a great podcast. I think this is a good episode, so I think you guys are gonna like it. And also, too, guys, if you like this podcast, make sure to check out the other podcast, Shonen Tapes. I just did a guest appearance on that. They focus on hip hop culture and on anime. And I did a little riff with them about anime, talking about how Attack on Titan is complete dog shit, terrible writing. I'll get into it later, maybe on another podcast, or send in the comments if you want me to talk about it on the next episode of this podcast. And, we also talked about Nas's new album, Magic, which I thought was a pretty great album. Very, 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 very Nas, but also very, very modern. And him and Hit Boy are quite a combination. So check that out. Shonen Tapes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all that. And make sure, like I said, to like, share, subscribe on here, and leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you consume any of my content. Thank you. This has been Drop and Give Me 20 with Phil Risden. I am Phil Risden, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.
Come on.